Okay, this presentation is going to focus on how you can support your child in striving for success in GCSE history here at Sherborne. My name's Mr. Shanks. I'm the curriculum leader for history. I'll just talk you through some of the details of the course just to make sure you're clear about that, and then I'll sort of give some pointers on the kind of things you can do to support your child moving forward for the rest of the year. This course is organised into 3 different papers. There has been some modifications on the basis of the impact of the coronavirus crisis. Paper 1 focuses on medicine through time. 2/3 of the paper focuses on the thematic study of medicine in Britain from the Middle Ages to the present, and there's also another section on the historic environment of the Western Front of the First World War and the British sector of the Western Front, looking at injuries, treatment and the trenches between 1914 and 1918. The minor change that's been brought in for this year only is that the spelling marks at the end of the essay for the medicine question, for the medicine essay, are no longer there. So that would normally be 20 marks, including 4 spelling marks, is now just 16 marks. So that adds to a total of 48 marks for paper 1, 1 hour and a quarter paper. Paper 2 has seen the biggest change. This is because we no longer are required to teach the Anglo-Saxons and Normans unit. So we're only going to be doing the American West on paper 2. It's going to take 55 minutes, and that is worth a total of 32 marks. And then paper 3 focuses on Weimar and Nazi Germany between 1918 and 1939, and that's the biggest single section, the biggest single topic in terms of marks, at a total of 52 marks. For the overall GCSE, therefore, the grand total is 132 marks available. There is no higher or foundations here in history. All students sit the same papers, whether they're a grade 9 student or a grade 1 student or anything in between. In terms of the November PPEs, the content will only be focusing on paper 1 and paper 3. So the American West won't feature this time round, but it will probably feature in the next PPEs sometime after the Christmas holidays. I'll just briefly mention the question types. I don't want to say very much about this. What I'll do is I'll put together some additional videos for the students' Google Classroom pages, kind of talking through the different question types, in the run-up to the final exams. The only thing that's worth knowing is that these question stems are always going to be this way. They're always going to be in this order. So there'll always be that consistency across the different papers. So there's never going to be that sort of unpredictability in terms of the question stems. It's a very, very predictable format. Obviously, the only thing that changes is the different aspects of the content that are asked. So this is the paper 1 format. So section A there is on the Western Front. You'll also have a little sources booklet to go with that for the 8 marker and the second 4 marker. And then section B is the medicine through time. As a guide to time, a 4-mark question, you probably want that to take no more than about 5 minutes. 8 marks, you're probably looking at about 12 to 13 minutes. And then the 16-mark essays, probably around about 25 to 30 minutes. The 12 markers should be about 20 minutes. Paper 2 on the American West here. This is all knowledge. There's no sources for this question. This is the paper that they find the most difficult by and large. Nationally, the marks on the American West tend to be lower than any other section. It's all knowledge. So it's really important that the students are revising this topic, this American West topic, effectively. It is something that we'll be giving a lot more attention to later in the year. And then finally, the Germany paper format here. Again, some of the technique here for the interpretations questions is a bit fiddly. We'll be working on this before the PPEs. I'll be making some materials available again via Google Classroom to support students with that, which you should want to check out. You'll also have, again, a separate sources and interpretations booklet to go with section B of this paper. So the students should be aware of that. In terms of the teaching outline for this academic year, all being well, if we have no interruptions, half-term 1 obviously we're near the end of. We're revising and finishing the Weimar and Nazi Germany content. We've got about 3/4 of the way through that course before we were had our sort of early finish to the year. We then decided to focus on revision of Year 9 content for the remote learning period because we think it's important to be in school if possible when we're teaching the fresh content. So we've been revising, and now we're just about onto the last bit of new content for the Weimar and Nazi topic. We might not quite finish that before the PPEs. If we don't, it won't have an impact on the PPEs because anything that we don't cover won't come up on the PPEs, and we'll cover that later on in November after those mock exams have finished. Half term 2, obviously, we've got the PPE exams and the feedback, and then we'll start our American West revision because, as I say, that's an important topic. If we can do well there, it'll make a big difference for the students. After Christmas, we'll finish that and then start on medicine in the Western Front, and then finish that in half term 4, which is probably when the next round of PPEs will take place, before then engaging in our final preparations for the exams after Easter. In terms of revision resources, how can you support your child with revision resources? Many of you have already purchased a copy of the Orange Revision Guide, which you can see on the left, and there's an insert there in the top right-hand corner picture. It contains information about both the contents and also the exam questions, and there's activities within it. So there's lots there. It's available for £2.50 via parent pay. If you bought one before lockdown and haven't received it yet, please just drop me an email and I'll chase that up for you. That might well have got lost in the ether there around lockdown. We can sort out a copy if that's not happened yet. That you can also, if you don't want to pay for the £2.50, you can also download a copy of the documents that make up the revision guide via your child's Google Classroom page. They're available as PDF documents there. There are externally produced revision guides which you can avail yourselves of via the usual online booksellers. The Pearson ones, I think, are probably the best ones that I've seen for the new course. Do make sure you're getting them for the right topics. If you want any further guidance on that, please do email me. You can also buy the course textbooks. They tend to be quite expensive, whereas the revision guides, I think the Pearson ones, like this American West one, for example, I think it's only about £5.99. It does mean you end up spending about 15 quid on revision guides for history, I'm afraid, if you do go with the external resources. But again, they have some useful things in about the content as well as about exam questions and model answers and so on. What about if your child is aiming for those very, very top grades, a grade 9 student? How much further can they be stretched? There are some things that they can do, I think, to enrich their knowledge further. I'm a huge fan of podcasts. I think there's some tremendous podcasts relating to history. The BBC In Our Time series from Radio 4 has a number of interesting podcasts on topics that we cover at GCSE. There's going back for about 20 years now. That series has been running. There's some podcasts on, I know there's one on Louis Pasteur and the germ theory. I think there's one on Edward Jenner. There's certainly quite a few on the American West. I know there's one on the gold rush to California. There's one on Pasteur and the Battle of the Little Bighorn. There's a couple of Germany ones on there. So they're good for that, for a high level kind of intellectual discussion of the topics that we do. There's Dan Snow's History Hit podcast, again, where he interviews historians and sort of other people writing books about history. Again, there's loads of interesting stuff there, particularly relating to Germany. There's some good episodes there that are well worth your time. There's magazines like BBC History or All Out History that you can get in your local news agents as well. They have lots of just fundamentally interesting history articles, and they do tend to, from time to time, have some that relate to the topics that we cover as well. So that might just give a bit of added depth of learning. And obviously there's a whole host of books out there as well that you can buy from historians, and I can recommend those. If you want to drop me a line, I can suggest some ideas for you there. In terms of websites, there's things like BBC Bitesize. They have some useful materials and videos. YouTube's got a lot of videos. The John D. Clare website here is quite good for the Germany. It's an old website now. It was set up for the old GCSE courses, but particularly if they're struggling with the Germany content, there's some quite useful material via that website. So do have a look at that. Most important is your child's Google Classroom page. It's really important that they're checking that regularly. There's loads of important information there that we'll be putting on throughout the year in terms of resources and so on. And of course, if your child is self-isolating, if they're unable to be at school but they are able to work, they should check the Google Classroom page regularly because we'll be uploading the lesson documents that we use. Students should complete those independently following the instructions. It's all self-contained. There's no PowerPoints there. If I just bring up the page for my class, if I bring up the most recent lesson that we've done, for example, on women in Nazi Germany, you'll see the document here is available as a Word document that you can download and work on yourself. Just complete the tasks, read the information. It's all there. There's no other PowerPoint that you'll need. It's all self-contained within one document, so hopefully that keeps things nice and simple and provides a useful set of resources to support revision as well as learning of this new content for this bit. We're also trying to make sure that there are some videos to explain this content, so I've been making some just short 5-10 minute videos, so the one here to go with this lesson. It kind of explains the content and explains the sort of the issue in the topic, and then it goes through that document just briefly in terms of what the students need to do. So hopefully that's helpful if supporting remote learning, but also the students who are in school, it might help them to support their own revision when they come back to these topics. And throughout the year, we'll be uploading all sorts of material from all of the topics that they've studied. So there's quite a bit on there for Germany at the moment. Obviously, that home learning is there. All the revision guides are here. If they just click on the classwork tab, you can get those revision guides as PDFs. And we'll certainly put some stuff on for medicine and Western Front before the PPEs, so they've got some additional things to go on. So it's really important they're checking that Google Classroom page. Okay, I think that's enough from me. If you do have any questions, please just drop me an email, or your class teacher an email, and I hope to see you all in person soon. Thank you and good evening.